bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
How you doing? 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 Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Today's Wednesday, February 3rd. 34 days into the new year, just 331 days left. We are live from downtown Burbank, California. I'd like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. It's Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet, I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. What's cracking? Let's do this, man. Tonight, right here, we have a very special guest, Jon Rappoport. We're going to do a report on the Zika virus fear porn. Oh, yeah. Tomorrow night, it's going to be a best of replay as we are going to be on the road up to Big Bear for the Alien Snowfest Conference. We're going to try to take some calls tonight, 323-825-5045. Do check out our sponsor, Life Change Tea. You can go right now to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the banner, getthetea.com. Use the promo code Jimmy. Whether you call in or order online, get yourself some free shipping. They've got some specials just for you on the website. All right, our sponsors are important. Do support us through our sponsors, Studio Dome. The Fade or Not special there, as you know, is the surround sound speaker system, wireless, subwoofer, 2 wireless satellite speakers, hard shell cases, cables, power supply, everything that you need for just $99. Just use the promo code Jimmy, and you will get free shipping on your order. $99. Go and do it. Alien Snowfest, we leave tomorrow. That's right. We'll be up there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, up in Big Bear. All right? I'm so excited about this. I know that there are people right now, they're in transit heading up there. We will see everybody there in a few short hours. George Norrie, Tom Danheiser, Jason Martell, Linda Moulton Howe, Stanton Friedman, Micah Hanks, Mike Barrett, Chase Kletsky, Craig Campabasso, Marshall Klarfeld, Richard Dolan, and yours truly. We're all gathering up there. If you need to go, you want to go, you should go. Tickets and info right now, aliensnowfest.com. You can click on the banners. We're going to be heading out in a few short hours. That's it. Excited. I cannot wait. Then we come back. We do a little Fade to Black. We do some Coast to Coast. And then another week of Fade to Black. And then we head over to the LAX Hilton for the 14th Annual Conscious Life Expo, which will be February 19th through the 22nd. Now, get your tickets and info. Everything that you need to know is over at jimmychurchradio.com. Just click on the Conscious Life Expo banner. If you can't be there and you want the live streaming, click on the live streaming banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Go over and get yourself some live streaming. Okay, and then right after that, we'll be contacting the desert June 3rd through the 6th in Joshua Tree, California. Again, early bird tickets and specials and lodging and everything is at contactinthedesert.com. You can get there via jimmychurchradio.com. Just click on the banner. And I guess we can make the announcement. Are you fade or not sitting down? Are you ready? July 1st, we will be in Roswell, New Mexico for the Roswell Festival. July 1st, we will be broadcasting that Friday from the Roswell Festival. We'll probably be doing some other events there, but it is official as of today. We will be at Roswell. So, yeah, June, Contacting the Desert. Month later, 3 weeks later, July 1st, we will be in Roswell. Very, very excited about all of these events. Finally, we get to go to Roswell. I'm going to the crash site. I'm going to go find me some debris. Yeah, man. All right. Rita and I on the road to Roswell July 1st, and we will have all of that information up over the next couple of weeks. But officially, we can make the announcement. Okay? So finally, we get to do a Fade or Not trip to Roswell, which we started talking about 2 years ago. Man, you know what I think you guys should do? This is what I think we should do personally. I mean, if it was up to me, this is what I would do, is I would write Rita right now, and she she loves all of you. Let's get a bus. Let's get a bus. Let's get a bus from Burbank to Roswell and back. That's what I think we should do. We need the Fade or Not bus, the Fade to Black chariot, and paint that sucker, man, and let's go. Let's leave from Burbank. Let's head out there, go do the show, and then come back. That's what I think we should do. All right? It's just me. Get a kegger, right? Put a kegger on the bus. That's what I say. That's what I say we do. All right? Write Rita right now. Let's get that. We've got, that's July, so that's 5 months. We got to plan that, 6 months, because we'll be out there in month 7, right? That's what I think we should do. Don't you guys think we should do that? All right? Yeah, see, Fader Bus Tour. That's what I'm talking about. Follow us on Twitter right now, at JChurchRadio. Let's get the show cracking. Got a lot to do tonight. Today, Nathan Lane is 60. He slayed in the Birdcage. He was good in the Producers. But the Birdcage, Nathan Lane, they go together. Peanut butter and jelly. Nathan Lane today is 60. And also today, the great Blythe Danner is 73. Man, was she great in Meet the Parents? Yes, she was. But you know what she was really great in? In case you don't know, let's see how quick Twitter is. Future World with Peter Fonda. Blythe was amazing in that movie. Love Future World. All right. Our dead guy's birthday today is, and we do need a moment of silence, please, Jay Adams, 1961 to 2014. Original member of the Z-Boys skateboarding team, who is considered to be one of the most influential skateboarders ever. Adams was featured prominently in the 2001 award-winning documentary Dogtown and Z-Boys by Stacy Peralta. Love that documentary. Highly recommend it. And in the 2005 dramatized film account of the Z-Boys called Lords of Dogtown. Now, although he's not with us anymore, I just have to mention he spent so much time in and out of prison, struggled with drug addiction, and then in November 2005, he was arrested and sentenced to 4 years after being caught on a wiretap acting as a go-between for a buyer and seller of crystal meth. Sad story. Great kid, influential, changed the world. He died of a heart attack on August 15, 2014, at the age of 53. Luciferius, you are amazing. Yep, that's Blythe. Man, she looks just like her daughter in that picture, doesn't she? Man, that gets a retweet. Blythe Danner in Future World. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B will get you straight into the sandbox. Email throughout the show is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. All right. Tonight, yes, very special guest, Jon Rappoport, one of the best writers and journalists out there, is here with us. Some of the best alternative news. His website, by the way, if you want to check it out, we'll talk about it throughout the show, is called nomorefakenews.com. You can go to it, click on it over at jimmychurchradio.com, but nomorefakenews.com. He is just absolutely amazing. He is with us tonight. We're going to be talking about Zika virus, its fear porn, and fear porn in the mass media in general. It's going to be a great conversation. You know, it's kind of, you know what's weird? We do it every single night here on Fade to Black, but tonight, having Jon in here, it's just going to be one of those nights. I'm telling you, it's going to be a barn burner. Tomorrow night will be a best of replay. On this day in history in 1959, it was the day the music died. On this day in 1959, Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson were killed on their plane when it crashed in Iowa a few minutes after takeoff from Mason City, headed towards Moorhead, Minnesota. Fader fact. It's a good one. The winner of the 2015 French language Scrabble World Championships doesn't speak French. And that, my friends, is a Fader fact. Oh, man. You know, with all of the breaking news right now, all of the breaking news on, you know, like Ted Cruz being a doofus, the Zika virus, Bill Cosby, the Super Bowl, Hillary's email, Dutch cops training eagles to hunt drones. You know, heavy, heavy news, right? You know who I feel sorry for? ISIS. I do. What happened? What happened to ISIS? What happened? The war in Syria. What happened? Russian planes bombing ISIS oil fields. ISIS oil tankers. What happened? What happened to ISIS in Iraq? What happened to Iran's involvement? Saudi Arabia. ISIS in Paris, Germany, Belgium, the United States. What happened? The beheading videos, gone. Taking over cities, blitzkrieg, gone. The raping, the pillaging, over. Everything is gone. Poof. Fini. Done. Totally missing from the mass media. Totally missing from the fringe media. Totally missing from any media, including this show. What happened to ISIS? I ask you. Now, I chose to stop covering ISIS and the war on terror fear porn because something told my id, my inner self, that if the mass media was covering it, then there was probably something wrong with the message. Now look, listen, stay with me. If the war on terror and ISIS was as big as the media was telling us, you know, and just a few short weeks ago, too, by the way, think about this, that ISIS was being exported through refugees across Europe. They're coming into the United States, and they're getting ready to just take over the world. Here they come. Get ready. ISIS is taking over Libya, Egypt, the Sinai Peninsula, Jordan, Turkey, taking over Boko Haram, invading Mali, Indonesia, right into the heart of Paris and Berlin and San Bernardino, California. And now, today, silence. And they got to be bummed. They had it all for a minute, didn't they? Videos playing everywhere, YouTube, took over Twitter, Facebook, social media, mass media. Everything was about them. And now they got nothing. Silence. It's interesting. And then today, the United Nations envoy halted its attempts to launch Syrian peace talks after Syria's army, backed by Russian airstrikes, made a major advance against rebel forces north of Aleppo, choking the opposition supply lines from Turkey into the city. And today, in what rebels called a punishing assault, the government forces ended a 3.5-year siege of the towns of Nubul and al-Zahra. It's a key step in a wider campaign to recapture all of Aleppo, Syria's biggest city, before the war. Now, it looks like the Russian-led offensive against Syrian rebels, not against ISIS, by the way, is starting to have an effect, which is great, I guess. I don't care. But it's also confirmation, albeit in a very strange way, that Russia has been bombing the rebels and not ISIS all along. And I got to say, ISIS has got to be bummed. Because the only news today is not about them. And why is this even news? Because it's not really, right? Well, a search right now of any news for an update on the war with ISIS is almost non-existent. Unless you want to read about the new secret air base that the United States is using, I've been talking about, which is not an air base, by the way. It's an airstrip in the middle of the desert that was constructed years ago for crop dusters. Secret air base, please. And yes, you can even find this secret air base on Google Maps if you want to go and look. I did. Wasn't that hard? Now, after the 1-month moratorium on ISIS in the news, by the way, today I bring you this. King Abdullah of Jordan said that his country is housing more than 1 million Syrians, many of them who came after the 2011 civil war in Syria broke out. Up to 100 new refugees are admitted every single day. And he says many with ties to the Islamic State. Now, it's not exactly a beheading video, but I guess it's news, right? Somewhere. It's a somebody. Yesterday, an explosion and fire blew a gaping hole in a commercial airliner over Somalia, forcing it to make an emergency landing after a passenger apparently was sucked out of the cabin. The Airbus 321, operated by Dubai-based Adalo Airlines and headed to Djibouti in the Horn of Africa, was forced to land minutes after taking off from Mogadishu Airport. But it wasn't ISIS. No. Although apparently it was Al-Shabaab. You know, the Al-Qaeda shoot-off. ISIS just must be pissed. Where did ISIS go? Where did they go? It was so, just like, I mean, to something as big as ISIS taking over the world, invaded the United States, refugees, we got to stop. We got to shut down the borders. Shut down the borders of France. Shut down the borders of Germany. Shut down the border. We got to stop. As tragic as Paris was, and it was horrific twice, as tragic as San Bernardino was, it's bad, and I feel bad for anybody that lost their lives. Tragic. But it was the taking over of the world. And that, to me, is pretty big news. And news like that is rammed down our throats every single day, doesn't just go away. They were taking over the world, right? Their new home was going to be in Libya. They just downed a plane in Egypt. bombings in Mali, Indonesia, invading hotel. I mean, it was everywhere. ISIS is coming to a theater near you. How can something that big, that huge, that global changing just go away? It doesn't. Or was it even real to begin with? I'm just saying, something like that just doesn't go away. And if it did, and we had these successes against them, why wasn't that in the news? Because it wasn't. Russia doing 500 bombing missions in a couple of days doesn't just end. It doesn't just go away. Apparently, the war in Syria is still going on. I guess there must be some media and journalists there, I think. But it's not getting to us, is it? Isn't that fascinating? Is the Zika virus that big of news? Is Bill Cosby that big of news that we need to hear about Bill Cosby instead of this terrorist group that is taking over the world? Think about who controls your news. Where did ISIS go? I don't know. But I guess we'll find out in the next round of ISIS fear porn, coming to a mass media network very soon. Think about it. All right. Man, I'm just... I tried to find my ISIS news today. Couldn't find it. Couldn't find it. Unbelievable. And if you think that is unbelievable, check this out. In all of the news that you know nothing about, for the past several years, police departments around the country have been equipping their cruisers with license plate readers. Did you know this? You may have heard about it. Let me confirm it for you. The high-tech cameras, officially called Automated License Plate Recognition, or ALPR, ALPR, they allow officers to quickly record large numbers of cars and immediately check rapid fire, real time, to see if there's a warrant or an unpaid parking violation on that license plate. Police say that they use the scanners to find fugitives, to find murderers, locate kidnapped children, Amber Alerts. And I get that. But critics say the technology simply turns police into debt collectors. Vigilante Solutions, which is based in Livermore, California, is experimenting with a new business model to attract police customers. They're giving the cameras, which cost $20,000 each, to the police at no cost. $20,000 each for free. But there's a catch, and the catch is you. The catch. The contract with the police department allows the company, Vigilante Solutions, to charge motorists a 25% fee on top of the existing unpaid ticket. You heard me right. That fee, on average, about $125, goes directly to Vigilante Solutions. If the motorist can't afford it, however, the $125, the police can arrest you and put you in jail. Oh, yeah. No joke. Now, the arrangement works something like this. Now, go with me. Let's say you have an unpaid traffic ticket or a court fee, and you're driving on the freeway. Highway Patrol gets the alert. Beep, 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 right? Scans your license plate. Pulls you over. You are given two options at that moment. You go to jail, or you immediately pay the court fees that you owe, plus the 25% payable to Vigilante. Now, if you don't believe this, in 2015, Texas passed a state law, HB 121, that allows police officers to install credit card readers in their patrol cars to collect the money on behalf of vigilante. Oh, yeah. My friends, you need to think about that. That's an outrage. And that is news that you know absolutely nothing about. And anybody that lives in Texas right now that's listening to this show, tweet me at JChurchRadio right now. Did you know about this law? Did you know about the police scanners in your state reading your license plate? Did you know that there was a law passed? I hope you do. They got a credit card reader, got a square. Whoosh, bam. On the spot. It feels nasty to me. You go to a third world country, you get pulled over by the cops. You got an option right there at your window. It's called buy your way out of it with cash so you can drive away and not go to a third world jail. That's where this stuff takes place, not on the streets of America. Man, Americans, I'll leave you with this, then we'll get John in here. Americans forked over $5.4 billion last year for the marijuana, the legal kind. That's right. Two marijuana industry market research groups reported to the Washington Post that number is more than the amount of money Americans reportedly spent on Doritos, Cheetos, and Funyuns combined in 2015. That's a real fact. Legal sales of the drug are expected to increase by 25% this year in 2016 to $6.7 billion. Sales for weed are expected to grow at a 30% clip over the next 5 years as more states move to legalize the marijuana. At that growth, the cannabis industry is going to pull in roughly $22 billion in annual revenue by 2020. You got to love this country. Man, we are so out of whack. I love you guys. Let's get out of here. Let's get Jon Rappoport in here. Man, I'm outraged. I'm outraged. And it's only going to get worse because we're going to talk about the Zika virus fear porn right after this short break. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. On KGRA, The Planet, the Game Changer Network, this is Bespoke Radio for the masses. Right after this short break, Jon Rappoport right here. And no more fake news. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I got to tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil three-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. EXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Kletsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fader-Knots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Bespoke Radio for the masses. Follow me on Twitter right now at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. On KGRA, The Planet, and the Game Changer Network. All right. Jon Rappoport. He's a graduate of Amherst College, where he got his BA in philosophy. And he has worked as a freelance investigative reporter for over 30 years. And in 1982, the LA Weekly submitted his name for a Pulitzer Prize. Rappoport covers politics, health, media, culture, and art for the LA Weekly, Spin Magazine, Stern, Village Voice, Nexus, and CBS Health Watch, among others, and has appeared as a guest on over 200 radio and television programs, including ABC's Nightline, Tony Brown's Journal, and Hard Copy. In 1996, Jon started the Great Boycott against 8 corporate chemical giants: Monsanto, Dow, DuPont, Bayer, Hushed, Rhone-Poulenc, Imperial Chemical Industries, and Ciba-Geigy. I think I said that right. The boycott continues to operate today. Jon has lectured extensively all over the U.S. on one question: who runs the world and what can we do about it? Since 2000, Jon has operated largely away from the mainstream because, as he puts it, and I'm quoting here, "my research was not friendly to the conventional media," end quote. So, over the last 30 years, his independent research has encompassed such areas as deep politics, conspiracies, alternative health, the potential of human imagination, mind control, the medical cartel, symbology, and the solutions to take over the planet by hidden elites. He is the author of 3 explosive collections, by the way: The Matrix Revealed, Exit from the Matrix, and Power Outside the Matrix. His website is nomorefakenews.com. And I would like to welcome, for the first time to Fade to Black, Mr. Jon Rappoport. Jon, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Jimmy. It's great to be here.
It is great to have you. And look, this is the first time on Fade to Black, and I get to do this. You get the first-time guest disclaimer, which is it's just you and I sitting on my couch. We're talking as friends. We're going to talk. We're going to start where we start. We're going to end where we end. We're going to end as friends. Are you ready?
It's a deal.
Man, I said to you, and I meant this. Do you, we broadcast from an underground bunker, right, in Burbank. I said to you, you must sleep in an underground bunker. Do you ever, we're going to get to your past and how you got into this, but I have to ask, are you ever scared?
Not really, no. Once I made a commitment to do this a long time ago, I just moved forward. And one of the things that's been my kind of watchword, especially since I went online, was if I've got something, report it now. Don't say in 3 weeks from now, 3 months, you're going to learn about something that'll just shake you to the core. Just do it now. Put it out there. Make it available. And that's what I do.
I give this advice to my audience every day, Jon, and I hope you appreciate this. But I tell them, whatever you hear, and it doesn't matter, whatever you hear on mass media or whatever you read, whatever the news headline is, whatever the report is, take it, flip it over 180 degrees, read it again, and then you're probably closer to the real truth. Am I wrong with that advice?
No, I think that's a good percentage. If that were something you could do in Vegas,
right?
I'm betting against the headline.
Yeah.
You would be living, high on the hog in Vegas right now.
It's really funny because it doesn't really matter what the headline is, and I kind of joke in a very cavalier way. But what if the headline was "cheese is bad for you"? Right?
I'm shopping for cheese.
I'm
right
shopping.
Away.
That's what I'm doing.
Load up on cheese. Let me get the big cart here.
That's right. Isn't that ironic that we've turned into that kind of news network and society that is probably the most accurate way to digest what you're being fed.
I would call it the new culture. It really is, because more and more people are waking up to exactly what you're talking about here. It's the contrary point of view. If they say A, I'm with B. If they say X, I'm with Y. And as you say, more often than not, you're going to be right. And that becomes a culture. It's not just an opinion here and there. Millions of people have learned about this, and they're using it to their good advantage.
I'm so cautious, John, about the news that I report. I dig pretty deep, and I go to the alternative sites and I read through it, and the things that I find important that people need to know, that's what I report on. But in doing so, and with my producers here, a lot of news comes across my desk every day, and I've got to go and figure out where I'm going. But I do read a lot, and I'm exposed to a lot. And I just find that nearly 100% of the time, it's nearly all BS. And I've got to have a BS meter on full tilt boogie all the time. And it's almost exhausting, to dig to the bottom of the truth every single day.
Excuse me. Yeah, it definitely is. I'll say something else about that. Many people, most people, have come to accept the fact that, say, in the United States, the three major networks never fail to agree on the content of every major story. People accept that. Well, of course, CBS, ABC, NBC, they're going to say the same thing. When, in fact, if you look at this straight on, it should never be that way.
No.
You would expect ABC is saying one thing, NBC, CBS. If these were actually honest reporters, that would be the case. But people, they've forgotten that. It's just not in their lexicon anymore to even think about that insane thing, that they all agree all the time, when in fact that would never be the case. If you took three honest, intelligent, perceptive, investigative people and you put them in a room and you brought up a major subject, the first thing you're going to find is disagreements.
Right.
But you never find that. I mean, that's a clue. That's called a clue. When you've got all three major networks always agreeing. And that's a clue that there's a script. And they're following the script. And it's not their script. It has to come from someplace else because they're all following it. So that tells you that even though 6 mega corporations may own major media in America, the real instructions, the tune, the script, is coming from someplace else, and they're following it.
What I do, and I challenge anybody to do this, and I do it all the time, and it's kind of fun. I do this for sport, John. When a headline breaks or there's some kind of piece of news, right? I'll immediately, at the top of the hour, click through as many of the news networks as I can to hear them read this headline. And inevitably, the first 20 words out of the talking head's mouth are the exact same, down to commas and periods and capital letters. It's an amazing thing, and if that is not luck.
It's not luck.
That's not luck.
I've had many conversations because I've been a reporter for 30 years now with reporters in the mainstream over the years, and in some of those conversations, privately, they tell me the truth, and they say, "Look, it's a machine. Nobody has to ask what they can report and what they can't report anymore. Those days are gone."
Completely.
Every reporter knows where he can tread and where he can't. And if he's telling me, as a reporter, take up a story and go over that threshold, over that line, several things are going to happen to me. My editor is going to say to me, looking at me askance, "Do you know what you're doing here? Don't you understand what's happening?" And if the reporter doesn't, the editor is going to say, "You're treading on very thin ice here. We're not going to go with this story. And if you keep bringing me stories that do this kind of crossing the line thing, then you're going to be covering Sunday picnics. Or you're going to be out of a job. Don't you understand how the game works? And if you're out of a job, you're never going to rise to this level of status or money again. That's what's going to happen to you. Don't you understand that? I mean, that's what happens. And so, as a result, virtually no reporters cross that line anymore. They understand the game. Everybody understands the game. The editors, the reporters, the supervising editors, the managing editors of these giant outlets, media outlets, the publishers, they're all in it together. They all know the score, and there are very few ripples in the stream. And when you do get somebody who makes ripples, like Cheryl Atkinson at CBS, who was virtually their only investigative reporter, then her computers are hacked at work and at home. She can't cover the stories that she wants to, and I can tell you what to me was her most gigantic revelation when she worked there. And, eventually she's either going to resign or get fired. That's it. And then she's gone, and there's nobody else who's doing that anymore. It's a machine. Everybody knows. Everybody's under programming and mind control in a very real sense, and it's self-imposed now. They agree to it, and they play the game.
It's, why am I on a no-fly list? Why am I getting pulled over 3 times a day? Why, they could make your life a living hell the second you step outside of the box. And what most people don't realize that watch the news is, as much as you think that is an honest face on the screen and they're passionate, and so they are reading off a teleprompter, and they cannot go one word left or right. They have to read exactly what it is there. And if they choose to go off that teleprompter, they can do it. They really can. Once. Once. That's it. You are given that one chance. And the second time, you're going to go find another job. And the money and the fame and being in that position, and it is so frigging competitive to get there that they are willing to sell their soul, right, in order to do that. And they don't, that their moral compass. John, don't you find that everybody, when you start off writing for the high school newspaper, you want to change the world. You go and you get into journalism in college, and you want to go to Beirut and be on the streets, and you want to be that guy. You want to just change, or you want to be the guy in the streets. And something changes. It gets very, very, very competitive. And you end up finding out that you don't go left or right. You've got to go straight down, and you're going to be told what to do. And if you don't, you're going to be out of a job, and you've got bills to pay. And that moral compass changes, doesn't it?
Absolutely changes. That's what the business is all about. So the reporter is going to say to me, "Don't you realize how much I've struggled and sweated to get to this point?"
Right.
And how I outdid the competition to arrive here. And now I've got a position to protect. That's what it's all about. Your listeners should sometime, just as a fun experiment, turn to any of the three major networks and watch the evening news and just make notes on the headlines, basically, the shortened phrase for the content of each story that is covered, and just list them, right? And then when that broadcast is over, read the list to yourself. And the first thing you're going to notice is that you're looking at sheer insanity. None of these stories are connected to each other. It just seems like somebody rolled the dice and said, okay, these are the 12 stories we're going to cover tonight. And you read them over, and you're looking at a gridlock on Capitol Hill, 12 cars in the fog pile up in Pennsylvania, a baby is born, and they thought the baby died but came back to life, and a sports celebrity is tweeting against another sports celebrity, and some entertainment figure in Hollywood, his career is fading, et cetera, et cetera. And you look at these and you say, what am I watching this for?
Yeah.
It's completely insane. And then if you take it a step further, you realize here's where the big paycheck comes in to the elite national anchor on television network news. It's all in what they call the segue or the blend, the transition from one story to another. He's an actor, and his ability is to make you feel that as he moves from one story to another, that there's somehow, some way, we don't know, it's a magic mystery. These are all somehow part of the same narrative, the same half-hour story. It's all somehow connected. It all works together. And now we move to our reporter in, Iraq. And now we do this. And now here, meanwhile, in Ohio, it's all, and that's why they pick up the big paychecks, because they are hypnotic. They have that capacity for, the majority of people who watch that news to put them in a light trance and make them feel that it's all one piece of cloth that's woven together, when in fact, it's like an insane surrealist painting every night if you just take it apart.
That affects you. Right? That affects you. Yeah, it's an amazing narrative. You're absolutely right. I find it fascinating and nauseating and scary all at the same time, because it happens every single day, and there are only a small percentage of people that get it, right, that see through it and kind of laugh at it and realize that, what a joke it actually is. Some of it may be important. Some of it may be breaking news. Yeah, bad weather, tornadoes coming your way. I get that. But the rest of it, they managed to weave the ridiculous together. What does the Kardashians have to do with anybody's life? What does it have to do with anything? But it is, Bill Cosby, as bad as that situation is, I guess that's more important than ISIS. And I had said today, I don't know if you heard my little editorial before I brought you on, but ISIS, for some reason, I feel bad for them right now, because they've been out of the news for almost 4 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And now who decides that? Apparently, a month ago, ISIS was taking over the world. They had infiltrated Berlin, Paris, Belgium, San Bernardino. They're on their way to the United States. 1 out of every 2 refugees around the world is an ISIS operative, and they are coming to a town near you. They're taking over the world. And then silence. Now, how can news that big, the world is being taken over by ISIS, and they're going to chop off your children's heads starting tomorrow, not be news today? How is that possible, and who decides that?
Well, here's the way it plays out at the ground level. Reporter goes into the editor and says, I've got a new story on ISIS. Now, the reporter thinks it's still on the table. The editor says, we've covered that so much before. People already get it. It's just going to be recycled stuff that we've already done. It's not important, and so here's what I want you to cover. And that's the end of it, you see, because it's not in the script right now. Now, 3 months from now, it could be back.
Oh, it's going to be.
It's going to be back, you see. But for now, there's a kind of a blackout on it. We're not covering that. We're doing this. We're doing that. And people think, well, it's because, I don't know, the election. That's certainly got to be more important. No, that has nothing to do with it.
Nothing.
Because they could just put that to the side and make that the third story on the news or the fourth story if they wanted to, and lead with ISIS. But they don't. And so exactly what you're saying, it's kind of a fade in and fade out action. Suddenly this one, this is the biggest thing that ever happened, and then it's not. And then something else is, you see. And there's a reason for that, psychologically speaking. I mean, this is not by accident. It's because when they do that fade in and fade out and fade in and fade out, that's a control mechanism. That leads you like, a horse with reins to move this way and then that way, and then you come back here, and then you go over there. And that process puts you again in a state of trance where you don't know what's happening. Your own innate sense tells you when something's really important, it should stay there right at the top of the news, like ISIS. But that's not the way it happens. They just lead you here, and they lead you there, and then they lead you to another place, and then they come back to the first place. And you are, if you play the game, if you are entranced, you follow. You're looking for the plate of food. You're looking for, some kind of sustenance. And they're just leading you by the nose all over the place. And that is programming. That's how programming actually works with information. You thought it should be there. It's not. And then it comes back. And you just end up giving up your own intelligence and discrimination, the ability to distinguish this from that. And you end up, okay, well, I guess I'll just follow along.
And spend money.
And sure, well.
Yeah, and spend money. Do you remember, if anybody wants an example of any of this, you remember back in 1995, if you had a Ford Explorer with Firestone tires, they were going to explode, it was going to roll over, and you were going to die. You remember that?
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
So they do the news, right? And the first commercial, Goodyear tires. And I'm like, doesn't anybody see this? And the flu, the most deadly flu ever this winter. Well, we'll be right back. And it's Theraflu, the first commercial.
Right.
It's absolutely, and if you have any question about it, just watch. It's amazing how they do this. Big Farm, and I know you report on this all the time, but the medical industry, when it comes to prescription meds and the fear porn and the cycle of commercials versus the news cycle, it's astoundingly bad. It is just so obvious, and I can't believe that there is no regulation in Washington about this, and it's only because of the lobbyists and the money and everything that is involved that goes cyclical right back through the banks, through Big Farm, to advertising, and to what is done on the news. And it's a catch-22, isn't it?
It is completely a catch-22. And then you have a situation where they will blow up a story that doesn't deserve any attention, and we can talk about that when we get to Zika. And then it's gigantic, it's hysterical. I mean, it's hysteria because they're telling you it's hysteria, and that's what they're reporting. And then off to the side, in nowhere land, in absolute nowhere land, participants to this horrendous globalist treaty, TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, today just signed on to the treaty.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right?
Yep.
Well, that's really non-story. It doesn't really mean anything. But 3 months ago, there was a tremendous amount of negative publicity that broke out about it because people were in an uproar because they were being informed all of a sudden that this was going to change the world, because instead of court systems in nations, there were going to be international corporate tribunals that would decide, for example, whether a nation could say no to importing GMO foods and toxic pesticides, or whether they could, in fact, say, they would have to say yes. And this is the kind of issue that will be decided in these corporate tribunals once this treaty is ratified. It's absolutely astounding and hideous. But you see, today, no. Zika is today. The signing, the ratification is just a ho-hum story. And that's because it's done on purpose. We have to distract everybody with something over here while the thing that is really important that we don't want to report on is happening over there.
We're going to be up against a break in 2 minutes, so I want you to share with me right now privately. Okay, it's just you and I sitting on my couch.
All right.
Something happened to you. When you were young, you were heading in another direction. I know that you were. Everybody has that epiphany. Something happened. What was that incident where you said, you know what, screw this, screw the man, I'm doing my own thing? What was that moment that changed your life?
A friend of mine who worked at LA Weekly said to me, I think they're looking for writers and stories. And I said, okay, I know a guy who is an expert on nuclear weapons. Maybe I'll interview him. And she said, do it. I did. They took the article, they put it on the cover, and they paid me. And all of a sudden I said to myself, it's not about that article. This is about the fact that I can say anything I want to. And they'll publish it, or if they won't, I'll say it anyway. It was like a flip in my mind. It wasn't rational. It wasn't logical at the moment. It was just one of those revelations. I can do this, and because I can do this, I'll be able to investigate anything and report anything that I find. Of course, that wasn't true eventually, and I saw that, and that's why I went online. But that was the jolt that happened to me overnight, and everything changed. It never was the same after that.
I remember the first time I picked up an LA Weekly. I get to LA, it's 1983, early 1984, and I picked one up at a liquor store, right? Took it home, and I read that, and I thought it was so good. I thought I was breaking the law in reading this. I really did. I thought, there's no way that people can write this stuff, you know? And not only that, but it was free. You could just walk down and pick it up, and it was thick, and it was just full of rebel writing, you know? And I'm serious. I thought the man was going to kick down my front door, you know? And I'm totally with you. And the LA Weekly from when I was here, from 1983 until probably 1993-ish, right in there. I had a 10-year run of absolutely groundbreaking guerrilla, the real deal writing. Yeah, you're absolutely right with that. That is a game changer.
That's right. That's what happened. They were even sending guys down to Central America reporting on death squads.
Yep.
They just no holds barred.
No, I miss those days of the LA Weekly. All right, let's take a quick break. Tonight, Jon Rappoport is with us. When we come back, I told you last month the next round of fear porn was going to be the Zika virus. Well, we had 2 weeks of silence, and then now the last 2 weeks, it's been all Zika. And Jon Rappoport is the man to talk about just that. We'll do that with Jon right after this short break. Stay right there. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
People love to shop. What if you could shop and it was actually good for you? What if you could actually purchase items that bettered your life? What goes into your body is important to what quality of life you have. How about shopping for items that better your health? GetTheT.com is that shopping place. We're not only tea, even though that's our number one seller, we are about helping your health. There's Colostrum LD for those of you with autoimmune troubles. The product helps your stomach get on track. GI problems produce pain. Get relief with Colostrum LD. How about some fat burners? Or maybe some joint aid? Or a power cleanse? There's so much to tell you with very little time. So get help health-wise at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Or you can call our friendly operators at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Get help and relief by going shopping. Shop at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Serving people with great products for over 8 years. GetTheT.com.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for the ultimate Bluetooth speaker system? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. It's just $99, and you use the promo code Jimmy, and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, JimmyChurchRadio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest is Jon Rappoport. His website is nomorefakenews.com. Go and check it out. Get your fix on. That is your instructions tonight after the show. Nomorefakenews.com. So, Jon, like I said right before the break, about a month ago, I saw this Zika thing, and it had all the ingredients of the fear porn cocktail. You know, it had all. Yeah, I saw the writing on the wall, and I warned everybody. Then I shut up, and I started following you right about that same point, and you picked up on it. Did you smelled it too, didn't you? It smelled a little stinky.
Yeah, right from the beginning. Well, I've been around the block a lot of times on these phony epidemics. So I know the pattern, and as soon as I saw this coming on here, you know, it was like, okay, here we go again, back to the rodeo, and let's look at this, let's look at that. And so, you know, I feel like a lawyer in court with this thing. You know, Your Honor, here is my case. I'm going to now present my case, and I've got all the data assembled, and I'm watching everybody scrambling all around and so on and so forth. And okay, fine, but here's the case. Here's what's actually happening. So, yeah, right from the get-go, it was like, here we go again, and let's jump in.
I like you called it Zika Freaka.
Yeah, Zika Freaka.
I love it, man. Love it. Now, I just said it. I gave you credit. It is yours, but consider it stolen.
All right.
I doubt I give you credit.
Be my guest. Yeah. Let's make it circulate the world. Zika Freaka.
Zika Freaka. All right. Let's do this, because you've got a really good chronology here, and you've laid it out in a linear fashion, and you've got a lot of info about this, and we could spend literally 6 hours digesting everything that you've got out there. But let's start at the beginning with some of the falsehoods. From day one, what seemed wrong? What were the first red flags for you?
Okay. The first red flag was how many actual cases of this birth defect called microcephaly, which means a baby is born with a small head and brain damage. How many actual cases are we talking about? Because right away, out of nowhere, we hear it's all about Brazil.
Right.
4,000 cases.
Right.
Where did that come from? Did somebody just jump up on a platform with a loudspeaker and say 4,000 cases? It was nothing before, and now it's 4,000. Where did that come from? Okay, so that's my first question. And then they're tying this to a virus, of course, Zika virus. What is that? Who ever heard of that? So let's look into that and see what that's all about, and see whether it makes any sense under the sun to say that this virus is causing microcephaly, that condition. So those were the first two things, because I see no evidence, of course. Where's the evidence that the virus is doing this, or how many cases there really are? Let's, jump in and find out. And that's how it started.
And for me, microcephaly, tragic, horrific, bad. Horrific. I'm a father. I'm assuming you are, but I'm a father, and that's it. So how do you really pull at the emotional strings on somebody? Well, let's bring children into it, and something as horrifically bad as that kind of birth. I mean, it is so sad and bad and everything else all rolled into one. And as soon as that was tied in, I was like, you know what? If you're going to go there, you really want to freak people out and get their attention and scare the crap out of them, tell them this. And that's exactly what they did. That was my first red flag, too.
Okay. That was, maybe right there with the first two for me, because here's how the mind control works. They give you this horrendous situation, as you just said. Okay, so now people are going to accept whatever the explanation is that comes after that. That's the way it works.
Right.
You show them the horrible picture, and then you say, and this is why it's happening. And people are not going to reject that. They're just not in a position to do that, because you've already put them back on their heels, and they're going, oh my God, this is terrible. And blah, blah, blah. And now you come in and you say, and this is why it's happening. And people buy it right away. That's what they do. This is a trick that goes back to the dawn of time, right? That leaders impose on their populations. We need an enemy. We've got to have an enemy. And the enemy is whatever we say it is, and here's the horrible thing that we're going to say the enemy is doing, and people are going to buy it. So you bet. That's right there at the top.
Interesting. Yeah. ISIS beheading videos, fill in the blanks. Okay, so next. Before we jump forward, did you look into the specific cases, and were you able to tie the two together and put together some real numbers?
Yeah. And, that's where it's like the train looked like it was on the rails, and suddenly it went down over the bridge and just fell into the ocean, right? Because here was the first actual report that came out, beyond all the hysteria. Researchers in Brazil, and that's the center of the whole thing, found in a country of 200 million people, gigantic country, 270 cases of microcephaly confirmed. 270, right?
Right.
And of those, they were able, they said, to tie those cases, 6 of those cases, to the Zika virus.
And how did they tie those single 6, as small as it is, and as tragic as it is? I don't want to downplay that part, but how were they tied to Zika? How were they able to confirm that?
Well, you've asked the key question, and this, again, goes back 30 years because that's the question I always ask. And for your listeners, dig in, folks, because, this gets a little deep here, but, you should really screw your brains in tight on this. How do you say that a virus causes a particular condition or disease? What are the rules? How do you come to that conclusion? What do you have to do in order to say that? And here's the deal. If you really are going to do it, you assemble the number of cases that you've confirmed of condition X, in this case microcephaly, 270 cases. You look at each one of them, babies in this case. Can you actually remove from those babies a piece of tissue, something in the blood, whatever, where you actually isolate and you can see the virus, in this case Zika, right? Mm-hmm. And not only see 1 or 2 little stragglers, but a whole bunch of them. Because when it comes to a virus, to even begin to say that it's causing a particular condition, you've got to have a whole bunch of them in the body, millions of them.
An invasion.
Big time invasion, you see.
Right.
And as it turns out, and this is heavy, researchers routinely do not do that these days. And by these days, let's go back to, say, 1984 or so. They just don't do that. They do a kind of indirect testing that suggests, implies, we think, the virus is there. How many? We don't care. We don't know. As long as we think it's present, we're then going to take that side-by-side correlation, and we're just going to say it's the cause. That's it. Boom. It's up to the people who are doing the research, which would lead me, we can get into this in more detail later, as to who are these people.
Right.
Well, the Centers for Disease Control, for example, has their own branch of what I call the medical CIA, which is called the Epidemic Intelligence Service, has existed since 1951. They have several thousand of these trained doctors that they shoot out to these, quote, outbreaks all over the country and the world, and they decide, you see. They're the deciders. And they feed their people in the media, in government, in medical schools. They've got graduates of this program that are editors, reporters in medical issues, professors at medical schools, pharmaceutical executives, surgeons general. They blanket the whole, insurance executives. It's a club. And they make those crazy decisions on purpose, with motive, with intent. We can get into that too, but that's how it comes about. So, in fact, to say, well, in 6 out of 270 cases we found, the Zika virus, this is a very deceptive thing. It doesn't indicate that that's the cause even in those 6. And you would have to actually walk into a lab and, probably at the point of a gun and say, I want you to tell me exactly what procedures you ran in order to come to this conclusion. And you would find non-science. You would find no kind of rational research. You would find these shoddy indirect tests because they want to find a virus. They must find a virus. Because? What's actually causing this condition that they're looking into has to do, for example, with mega corporations and pesticides and poisons and all of this kind of, now we're getting into who runs countries, who runs Brazil really, why is Brazil the number one user of pesticides in the world? And what are the effects of these pesticides really that are unreported on the news? Therefore, who do we have to protect here? Who do we have to put off to the side? How can we distract the general public? Well, we just say the best cover story, as I like to say, in the world is a virus. You say the virus, everybody salutes it. All of a sudden, all the attention goes there, and it goes off of the very important heavy hitters that you have to protect. That's the way the game works.
Are you saying, I just want to be clear on this, I want you to scare the crap out of me, okay? Are you saying that what we see on television where the, don't laugh, stay with me on this, the CDC gets wind of a virus, they close down the town, they show up in their hazmat suits, they isolate the victims, they are in an isolated ward, CDC shows up, takes tissue samples, blood samples, DNA testing, narrow down, find the virus, and they're ready to start eradicating and make a move. Are you saying that that is not what happened in Brazil with these 6 cases?
Yeah, I'm saying what I'm saying is
that didn't happen.
There was no real scientific testing in Brazil. That's what I'm saying. And no matter what the CDC says or the World Health Organization, which is really taking the lead on all this hysteria,
right?
These people don't do, real science. They do what they do. And if you look at the statements from Margaret Chan, who is the director of the World Health Organization, she readily admits that there is no demonstration yet that the Zika virus is causing microcephaly. She readily admits that and says, however, it's highly suspected or highly suspect, therefore we have to go with it.
How long?
We have to promote this because we can't be caught off guard. And so it's right out there in the open if people would look at it.
Right.
It's right out there.
And
this is not science we're talking about. This is political.
Right.
When they say the virus, this is like saying, Marco Rubio, or
Yes.
Ted Cruz, or, this is a political statement. This is not a scientific statement.
Right.
And this is what I've learned time after time after time. And I got stories that'll make your head curl, especially the one about Cheryl Atkinson at CBS.
We'll talk about. I'm a huge fan too, so we'll get to that. I promise you before the end of the show. Let's get to some of these other crazy numbers. Before we do that, how long has Zika actually been around? It's been around a long time.
It was discovered in 1947.
1947. So,
and since then, in all of the literature that you read, mild illness, many times no symptoms, goes away, could take, some sort of over-the-counter whatever for it, not to worry, nothing, zilch, zero. That's what you see. And then all of a sudden, it's like, wow, all of a sudden it's causing, babies to be born with severe defects and brain damage, and basically their life is over. Oh, sure, we can accept that. On what basis? No basis whatsoever, just because they say it.
And then they follow that up with, and I find this fascinating that they would do this for fear porn. No cure. There's no cure.
No cure, no treatment. Don't get pregnant for 2 years, 3 years. Right? I call this depopulation by press conference.
Yeah, that's exactly. You read the same thing. Yeah, read between the lines on that.
That's what that is. Women are being warned. Here are 22 countries that we don't think you should travel to, and don't get pregnant. And the latest, which is a story that I've got, I don't think it's up yet. It might just have gone up on my site. I'm not sure. Dig this. Abortions at sea.
Say what?
Abortions at sea. There is now a group in Central and South America, because there are countries there, El Salvador, for instance, abortion is completely illegal, but other countries where it's severely restricted. And so this group is offering a service where you can get on a ship if you are in early pregnancy, go outside the 3-mile limit, right?
Yeah.
Take a drug and abort your baby, because you never know, Zika could be here. And women are signing up for this program to lose their babies on the basis of zero science and total insanity.
That's unbelievable. And, you know, isn't it always follow the money? You know, I even hate to go there, but it's always something to do with money. And here, oh, man. Okay, next. 1 million people affected by the end of the year. Now they've raised the number to 3 to 4 million. Widespread. Here it comes. Where did that number come from? And what I think is that number has always been there. You know, it's just a common mosquito. It's a common virus.
Yeah, of course.
But
that's the key, Jimmy.
Yeah, and they throw.
It's always been, it's like, because people, you know, we got to break down what this means. Like, for example, she has the virus. She's infected. She's a carrier. The transmission of the virus, you see, because now, once they've given you the virus and you accept it, now they can say case numbers. They can, and these they just make up out of thin air. I mean, really, 1 million. There'll be 1 million people infected. 3 million, 300 million. They just make this stuff up, right?
Right.
By the end of the year, whatever. But what does it really mean? If the virus, first of all, this virus, who knows how long it's existed? I mean, it was discovered in 1947.
That's right.
It could have come into, existence, 10,000 years ago.
That's right.
It's been around the planet a few thousand times already, and it's in people's bodies all over the place, and it's doing nothing.
Right.
So for a virus that does nothing, to say that 3 million or 300 million people, you see, could become, quote, infected, that's the hysteria propaganda, and it means, again, absolutely nothing. It means zero. It just means, these viruses are hanging around in people's bodies, watching the young and the restless, and sitting on a couch. It means nothing. But this is how they move the propaganda, because they've already invoked in the population fear of the virus. So if they say this new one is going to infect 3 billion people, everybody's looking around now. It means nothing.
I thought immediately when I saw that number, and I'm thinking, okay, it was discovered in 1947. It's a mosquito. All this says to me when I saw that number is there's probably already 2 million people already infected on any given day. Maybe the number is even higher.
Sure,
this
why
is
not?
Artificial, but that scares the crap out of everybody.
Of course, and that's what they're doing. That is what they're doing on purpose. The World Health Organization and the CDC are basically PR agencies. That's what they do. They're propagandists, and they put out propaganda. In fact, I could even describe a conference about the flu where a PowerPoint presentation was made, and the whole issue was, how do we scare people into getting the vaccine? What do we have to say? We have to say people die. We have to say severe illness. We have to say these things in order to get them to go get the vaccine. And so this is the program. This is what they do. They invent stuff out of thin air, and they just, scare the pants off people.
Well, and they did that yesterday. I could not believe that they went there, that the first case in the United States has now been verified, and of all things, it's sexually transmitted.
There you go. Boom, right? Sexually transmitted. And I've got another article up on that. So it's the blood-sucking vampire mosquito and the sex transmission movie. That's what we're looking at. Oh, the mosquito. Did you see a mosquito? No, I thought I heard one, oh my God. And let's not have sex. This is the program. It strikes at the heart of what can scare people. They have figured that out, and so that's what they do every time. I mean, this the biggest mind control programs in the world are really information mind control. This is what affects more people than any other kind of mind control. That's just a slam dunk. And so these are people who know how to do it. And because they have tremendous access and control over major media, it's the easiest thing in the world in order to be able to do that. And again, to go back to reporters on the ground, if a reporter from a major media outlet dared to try to contradict this hysteria, that reporter would immediately lose all of his sources at the CDC, the World Health Organization, all the researchers he can talk to and get quotes for stories. That's gone overnight.
Right.
He's gone. He's blacklisted. He's finished.
Right. What? Okay, this is my next prediction. I know that you're probably one step ahead of me on this. But I guess if you're going to play the stock market, tomorrow you buy the stock in the company that is developing the vaccine.
Already happened. Already happened. And the stock price went up already.
Yeah, who's the company?
I can't remember the name. There are 3 companies or 4 companies that are involved. They jumped right in. Yes, okay, we got the monkeys ready for the animals, the clinical trial. Then we'll go to humans, and we'll do this as fast as we can. And boom, the stock goes up. Yep, already happened.
Just like it did with Ebola. And I was fascinated with that. You can see the cycle on how all of this works. If you just make yourself a little bit aware, you can see it happen, and it's like clockwork. And everybody makes their moves. The 1%ers, that are in the stock market, they profit off of this fear porn. They're the ones that are buying the advertising on the news. The news is giving the bad news. It's one thing after, and then you're going to hear the reports of the companies on the news developing the vaccine. And the next thing you know, and it all goes in clockwork. It's a machine that's running.
And the government, if they do produce a vaccine, the government will sign a contract, okay, commit to buying a certain number of doses, let's say 50 million. And the manufacturer knows they're going to sell. It's a deal. That's the arrangement they have with the government.
Right.
The CDC, in fact, buys billions of dollars worth of vaccine, right?
Right.
So they'll have to use the vaccine. Could just stockpile it, never use it. If the story fades and nobody cares about this in 6 months, it's sitting in warehouses, and the government paid for it. The manufacturers got the money. They know they're going to get the money. Everybody's happy, and that's the end of that.
What happened with all of the? We're going to be. We got 60 seconds here. What happened to all the Ebola vaccine?
Where is it? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Where is it? I don't think they've actually ever released an Ebola vaccine. That's one of those things. Well, we're trying with this, with that, whatever. I hear nothing about that. If they've got one, I don't believe it's been approved yet for use because they would be using it and putting it on vaccine schedules. That's another thing. You see, they don't even have to develop a vaccine. They just say they're going to.
They threaten to. Yes.
And they might, like they did with swine flu, but then they might not.
It's such a crazy industry. Let's take a quick break. This is Fade to Black tonight. Jon Rappoport. His website is nomorefakenews.com. That's where I go. That's my secret source. It's yours now, too. More with Jon Rappoport right after this short break. This is Fade to Black.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Ray Sobs here once again to tell you about the Space and Alien Snowfest Ufology Conference taking place in the ski resort city of Big Bear Lake in sunny Southern California. What a lineup. Richard Dolan, Chase Kletsky, Micah Hanks, George Norrie, Jason Martell, Jimmy Church, Linda Moulton Howe, keynote speaker Stanton Friedman, and more. Along with the speakers and lecturers, join the luncheon hosted by Jimmy Church. See a world-class UFO ET-themed ice sculpture contest with attendees voting the winner. Enjoy the quaint shops, restaurants, and pubs in Big Bear Lake Village, and enjoy some of the best sky watching you can imagine. After the hectic holidays, gift yourself with a retreat the first week of February and come relax with us in a premier ski resort town high in the mountains of the Southern Sierras with an average of over 300 sunny days a year. Take advantage and book your lodging early and get your tickets now. Visit our website and register at aliensnowfest.com. That's aliensnowfest.com.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With a mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jon Rappoport is with us. He's the author of 3 amazing collections, The Matrix Revealed, Exit from the Matrix, and Power Outside the Matrix. His website is nomorefakenews.com. And, John, I was reading one of your articles a couple of days ago that literally scared the crap out of me. And it was, all of your stuff does, by the way, is the connection with the CDC and the CIA. And I read the entire article, and I just thought this can't be true. It just can't. And I start from the beginning on this, where you first found out about it when you wrote your first book, AIDS, Inc. What happened?
1987, 88, working on the book. Don't remember exactly how this all came to kind of a head, but I called up the CDC, Centers for Disease Control. And by the way, in those days, you could actually talk to a human, a media rep. I had a guy over there who would talk to me, and he knew that I was writing a book that was going to be, shall we call it, generously counter to what the CDC was saying about AIDS. And still he answered my questions and so forth. You could even talk to researchers at major universities and labs, but that is all gone now. It's impossible. But anyway, at that time, we had a discussion, and I had heard a story that the CDC would, on a regular basis, send certain people to Langley to get training from the CIA, and that these people would come back to the CDC with advanced levels of security classification that they didn't have before. And he and I went around and around on this, and finally he admitted that that was so. That was the case. That did happen. That was something. There was that connection. And this is what led me to this whole business about the Epidemic Intelligence Service, the EIS, that we discussed earlier at the CDC, where they train these doctors and they send them out in the field, and these are the virus hunters. These are the people who make sure that anytime something happens and they want to blow it up into a, quote, epidemic, they can do it by just simply saying that's what it is. And because they have a club and they know the reporters who are also in the Epidemic Intelligence Service and the editors who are, they can get the story printed any way they want to. And they do. They absolutely do. It's a club, and it works. And so that's why you see something like the swine flu suddenly erupt out of nowhere, and the stories about this and that. And then, people scratch their heads 6 months later and say, well, gee, it seemed like that turned out to be a dud. They were threatening that half the world was going to die, and then it turned out to be a dud. You bet.
What is the CIA? What kind of training are they getting?
Yeah, I wish I knew, but I think it probably has something to do with biowarfare, with certain kinds of germs, with certain kinds of research. But I would also say that they get, some seminars in how to do disinformation.
Yeah, well,
disinformation ops, because, this is what the CDC does. They make the CIA jealous. I mean, these people are pros at disinformation. They know how to do that, and they run these covert ops all the time. Okay, now we're going to tell people this and tell them to do that. This is the threat. The vaccine is the solution. We build up the hysteria over here, and we come in with the vaccine or the medical drug that we want to, and whatever it is. And you see, the overall op, Jimmy, is all about conditioning populations to obey.
On both sides.
That's really what it is.
It is, and the CIA, the thing that they are best at, and the thing that they focus on is infiltrating foreign soil covertly undercover. That is their goal. That is what they need to go and do, and that's what they train. That's it. That's their mission. And if the CDC is going in there with their doctors, then obviously the doctors are being trained to be able to go into a foreign country and in a covert situation, not be discovered, undercover for a mission that would have something to do with viruses. That's pretty creepy on its own. And then you have the two-way street. You have the CDC training the CIA on how to get this done and when to use this for fear or to topple governments or to control population. It's a dark, gnarly nightmare of a two-way street.
You bet. It definitely is exactly that. And people, these people are pros. I mean, they know how to do this. They really do. They understand. You never read, or very rarely read, about the fact that the Epidemic Intelligence Service has sent people to Hong Kong or someplace in Africa or Brazil or whatever, you see, and that they're working with the locals, which means basically they're influencing and controlling what the locals come up with. But it's happening, you see. It's happening 100 times, between 100 and 200 times a year. That's what the CDC itself says.
Yeah, I'm in your article. You state that there are several hundred investigations a year.
Yeah, so that means, you got these people on the road all the time.
Right.
And these doctors, many of them, you see, are doing other things after they've been trained by the EIS, the Epidemic Intelligence Service. They have a private practice, or they're working in a hospital or a clinic or whatever. And then, they're agents, so they get a call in the middle of the night. They pack their bags, they get on a plane, and they go. They're ready to go all the time, just like an operative of the CIA would be ready. He's not always infiltrating somewhere. Sometimes he's back at Langley, whatever. But then the call comes in, he shows up, mission ready, and he's off and running. Same thing with these Epidemic Intelligence Service doctors. That's the way they're trained. They sign on, and that's what they do. And, of course, they love it. I mean, this is adventure and so on and so forth. And, that's the way it works.
Is it as dark as this? Is there an operations center where they have a rotating list of big farm, right? A list of companies, and they are literally funneling money back into these companies on rotation. Okay, we did Amgen this week. Tomorrow let's hit, Pfizer, right? And they're sending operatives out. The EIS guys are going out and literally creating an epidemic or a situation where it would funnel back through to big farms so they could profit. Is it on a road? Is it that dark?
Well, as far as specific pharmaceutical companies, I couldn't give you an answer to that, but I can tell you that in general, you're right on, because this is the way it works, you see. The pharmaceutical companies need new markets, new conditions, new diseases, new disorders invented out of whole cloth in order to develop new drugs. So every time one of these things happens, all of a sudden, vaccine makers swing into gear and the drug makers swing into gear. I mean, there are several antiviral drugs, for example, that have come to the fore in recent years, like Tamiflu. And I think there's another one called Relenza.
Yes.
Which at one time were considered, hey, man, these are very toxic. We don't want to mess with these. They have a lot of bad side effects. All that's gone away now. Now you get, oh, yeah, we're using these, of course. And there are new ones that will come down the pipeline, of course. So, yeah, there's absolutely a back and forth cousin relationship between the CDC and the pharmaceutical companies. The CDC is a PR agency for Big Pharma. That's what they do. That's how they work. This is the story. And so, sure, somebody, whether they know which company it is or they leave it up to, the competition to decide, it's the same story. There's going to be new drugs developed. There's going to be a new market. The pharmaceutical companies are professionals at exploiting these markets and selling drugs and making themselves look like they're heroic and humanitarian and all the rest of it.
Do you find it suspicious that these vaccine makers always seem to be some small startup?
Yeah. And quite often they get gobbled up, because they do the basic, research and development, and then somebody comes in and buys them up. And so, it's typical that that's the way it works. And it's very good business for the big drug companies to allow this to happen and look down and say, okay, so here's this company and that one over there. They're doing some interesting work in San Diego. Okay, so we like these three companies. Let's buy them up. Let them do, the initial grunt work, and then we'll come in. And if we don't buy them up, we'll form what's called a partnership with them, and we'll be a co-developer and, all this kind of thing. So it's kind of like having your own scouts out there, your own scout team. And they do the legwork and the grunt work, and then you gobble them up.
This is like the stupidest question of all time because it gets asked all the time. But here we have these companies coming up with vaccines and antiviral and working, but here we're still sitting on, the common cold. And is there not enough money in doing that? Or is there more money in not having a cure for the cold and just do the preventive maintenance over the counter billions of dollars every single winter business?
They can't cure it. They can't cure the cold. They can't cure the flu. There's a lot of things they can't cure because it all has to do with the person's immune system. Is it strong? Is it weak? What's the nutrition like?
Yeah, what's the diet?
You know, they visiting McDonald's 17 times a week. Are they living in an area where there's a tremendous amount of industrial runoff into a river? I mean, there's all kinds of factors involved. But on the deepest level, what I call the medical cartel, what they want to do is, and they're doing it, is install what I used to call a cradle-to-grave system. It's now in utero-to-grave system,
right,
where every person trods a bleak path during which he will be diagnosed with 30 or 40 or 50 different conditions, mental disorders, diseases, and so forth, will be drugged with toxic drugs that will lead to new symptoms and new diagnoses and new drugs. And this is, A, all about population control, and B, it's about enormous profits and debilitating populations to the point where they can no longer think straight, they can't operate, they don't know what's happening in the world, they don't care. They're just trying to get by and survive because they're being poisoned by so many drugs and they're being diagnosed so many times that their head is spinning. And I can give you some facts and figures that are just, I mean, shocking to the core.
Well, let's actually stay on that and let's talk about that. I do want to get to the 5 things that are going to happen next with Zika. Absolutely mind blowing. Is this? I'm not a doctor. I don't want to give medical advice. Okay, but I say this: go to a doctor when you break your arm. That's when you go to a doctor. That's when you need a doctor. Other than that, if you want to stay healthy, don't take drugs. Just don't do it. And that I don't want to dispense of medical advice, but I feel great. And the reason why I feel great, I take the right vitamins, I take the right supplements, I do all of that. I don't eat well. I love food, and I'm not going, it's my last little vice that I have. I love food of any kind. But I don't take some kind of psycho drug or some kind of, I just don't do it. And I do it for my own reasons. But you know what? I feel great. I don't watch the commercials that have some prescription medicine, go to my doctor and go, I saw this on TV. I think I'm feeling this on my side, and get a prescription to something that has the disclaimer at the bottom, may cause death. May cause you to have visions to kill your wife. May cause, whatever these disclaimers are.
Yeah, right.
And it's frightening to me, and I totally agree. And you're saying that 30, 40, 50 times from cradle to grave, you're going to get diagnosed with something that you're going to need a prescription for.
Exactly.
Oh, man, that's insane to me.
Everything that we've been saying so far, there's conspiracy here, and there's covert op here of major, major proportions behind all this. And there are motives, which I touched on early when I said certain major corporations like pesticide companies and so forth, the Monsantos of this world, have to be protected from exposure as to what they're really doing to populations. And so you get the virus as a cover story and so forth. But
right,
let's just dig into this, for example. July 26, 2000, Journal of the American Medical Association, author Dr. Barbara Starfield, who at the time was a revered public health expert at Johns Hopkins University. Every year in the U.S., the medical system kills 225,000 people, 106,000 from prescription drugs, and 119,000 from mistreatment and errors in hospitals. Okay, if you do simple extrapolation, that is The medical system in the U.S. kills 2.25 million people every decade. Directly. Boom, boom, boom. Okay? Now, I've written about this many times, and I interviewed her before she died several years ago. And a couple of the key questions that I asked her did any agency, the federal government, ever approach you to consult to try to remedy the situation? This was an email interview, and her answer in capital letters was N-O. And then I said, are you aware of any effort inside the government to fix this situation? N-O. No. People are aware. This is not being trumpeted in newspapers and on television, but people in government, significant people in government agencies, they know this. The FDA knows this. People who should know it, and they do nothing about it. And therefore, they are complicit in murder. Every year, this happens, 225,000 people. And this is a conservative estimate. And the reason that I cite it is because I want to show that even by conventional standards in their own publications, they admit this. So you have to say, well, are we going to just say this is an accident? And, gee, we wish it weren't so, or we don't even know about it when we do. No. There's intentionality involved here when you know and you do nothing.
Yeah, there's guilt. Well, let me ask you this. The same numbers where the government wants to step in and take control of our lives and regulate, how many people die from DUI car accidents? I'm just pulling numbers out of the air. It can't be even close to that number. Or no, how about
this would be the third leading cause of death in America.
Right. And
behind cancer and heart disease.
Behind cancer and heart disease. And and so when we have I'm a Second Amendment guy. I'm not saying anything negative, but when you look at those numbers and you look at the people that commit murder, like murder, not accidental, not this, somebody shoots themselves, in the foot when they're hunting. Not that. I'm talking about deliberate murder, right? What are those numbers? And because in this case, if we're looking at 250,000, and then, extrapolating over to 2 million, over 10 years, that's murder, right? That's
absolutely
murder.
Doesn't even, what you're talking about, pull a gun, murder somebody, doesn't even vaguely approach this number.
It does not. And so who is culpable here, and why aren't we pulling the trigger or making a move towards big pharma and hospitals and the true negligence that is going on there? I don't get it.
And here's another aspect of this. And I like to point this out to so-called science bloggers. I call them science bloggers who live in mommy's basement. And these are people who, there's never a conventional medical opinion that they don't love. They're always doing this. And when I bring up, okay, I'll give you a conventional citation. Medical system kills 225,000 people a year in the U.S. And, I don't want to hear about it. I'm gone. Okay. Because let's break this down. 106,000 people are killed every year by pharmaceutical drugs. Okay, so who approves those drugs? The FDA. They approve them as safe and effective. Otherwise, they couldn't be released to the public. And where are the studies that purport to show that these drugs are safe and effective published? They are published in widely respected, peer-reviewed medical journals like the New England Journal of Medicine, Journal of American Medical Association, and so forth and so on. So what this means is that on a routine basis, all of these studies and reports that are published in these respected journals are lying through their teeth.
That's right.
And in fact, and I have quoted her on many occasions, Marcia Angel, who was the editor-in-chief of the New England Journal for 20 years and eventually left or was pushed out, has published a number of articles in which she says, for example, it was with great reluctance after 2 decades of being the editor at the New England Journal that I came to the opinion that I could no longer trust clinical studies, doctors' reports, medical this, medical that. In other words, she was admitting that her own journal was routinely publishing lie after lie after lie about the safety of these drugs. So we are looking at a complete self-feeding, self-growing monster of collaboration among various parts of the medical cartel who know that they're killing all these people, and they keep doing it. That is murder. That's not negligent homicide or manslaughter. That's murder. And therefore, there is intentionality involved here. It isn't just, oh, I'm throwing up my hands or whatever. People are not coming forward. They're not blowing the whistle on this. And they are, at the very least, permitting it to happen. But at the highest levels, this is being done on purpose. If you want to talk about depopulation, 2.25 million people disappearing from Earth in America every decade, that's pretty big-time depopulation.
Yeah, it's that's 1%. That's pretty good population. That's thinning of the herd. Mm-hmm. And now when it comes to clinical studies, and we all know that the information is skewed. By the time it gets to the FDA, 50 people have lied. Okay, so we get that. The information that they get is skewed. But out of those clinical studies, when you see an advertisement on TV and they say may cause death on a drug that is a prescription medication for toenail fungus or whatever it is, causes death, how does that pass a clinical trial and make it to manufacture? Isn't that the very criteria where you don't release the drug? Isn't one death too many?
Well, it should be. It should be, but the FDA is so corrupt and so in the pocket on purpose of the pharmaceutical industry that they just don't care. And there was, in fact, a really ripping interview with a guy named, I think it was Ronald Kavanaugh, who used to be a drug reviewer for the FDA. And, I won't go through all the details, but basically he said that he and his family were threatened. Put a pass on this drug. Say it's a good drug. This is why you're here. Understand what the game is all about? There was no doubt in his mind that his life and the life of his family was in danger, and he worked for the U.S. federal government at the FDA. So, we're not talking about a Sunday picnic in a park here.
Are the lobbyists that strong? I know you're going to say yes, but are they is money so corrupt in Washington that things like this, important stuff, are just not ever considered? I mean, is it that powerful, and the lobbyists that are there in Washington controlling all of these laws, is it really that strong? And have we just let morals, just go out the window?
Well, the short answer to that is yes. But psychologically and spiritually, what's happening here is that these people are willing to exert tremendous denial over what they know to be true. That's the first thing that happens.
Right.
And that permits them to just live in the ocean of money and take money and give money and share money and do whatever they do and serve their masters at Big Pharma without blinking, without even trembling an inch. First they go into complete denial about what they know to be the truth, the horrendous truth here. And then, of course, as you say, that means they give up their moral compass completely. And then once you've done that, then what are you going to do? How do you exist after that? What identity do you even have left as a human being or as a soul? You have none. So what you seek out at that point is corruption. That's where you want to live, because that's the only environment that in your present condition makes any sense to you. And now you are in the ocean of money and money corruption, and you can wheel and deal and do it very well because you've shrunken down your existence to that small, horrific space.
You want to be more corrupt than the guy that's corrupt standing next to you. And the competition is there. That's a fascinating way to look at it. Our guest tonight, Jon Rappoport. His website, nomorefakenews.com. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal God, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
Why do people order Life Change Tea? Because Life Change Tea helps the digestive system. Life Change Tea helps the colon unclog. The tea also helps with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and many, many other health issues. Life Change Tea also tastes great. And Life Change Tea is not just green tea. Life Change Tea is a unique blend of 8 different herbs that go to town, cleaning your body of harmful toxins, bacteria, and parasites. Our tea is number 1. Are you ready for your life change? Let the tea help you. Log on to our online store of helpful products to get your body on track. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Or you can call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Not all tea is equal. Read our website of all the factual testimonies that prove that Life Change Tea is working. Health is important, and our quality of life is very important. Don't wait to order. Expect a life change with Life Change Tea at getthetea.com.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. When I'm not hosting my radio program, The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA, or writing new books on UFOs, I run a publishing company. I'm proud to say that Richard Dolan Press has published some of the most fascinating books available on UFOs and related subjects. They include Dr. Bruce Maccabee's classic analysis of the UFO cover-up, David Marler's breakthrough book on triangular UFOs, Dr. Richard Sauter's unique work on underground bases, and other classics by Grant Cameron, Chase Kletsky, and Dr. Bob Wood, not to mention intriguing works by Eve Lorgan and Laurie MacDonald that deal with truly bizarre phenomena. I'm proud to publish such high quality and original works, and there are several amazing books about to be released over the next few months. Go to richarddolanpress.com to learn more.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Jon Rappoport is with us. His website is nomorefakenews.com. Go there. All right, John, yesterday, or maybe it was the day before, I was talking about, and this is a non-political show, but I was talking about the doofuses that are running for president right now for POTUS. And I compared them to both Democratic and Republican, a team of used car salesmen. You walk on the lot and you look around, and everybody that you see is one of the people that are running right now. And I said, where are the good people in this country? There's so many great people that you've looked up to that have influenced you in your life. Why aren't one of them running for president? And why don't you, man? Why don't you run for office somewhere? You could be a game changer.
I ran for a seat in Congress in 1994 out of L.A. and against a 20-year incumbent in a primary. And on election night, we drove down to this building south of L.A. in the middle of a sea of darkness, and the building was completely lit up. Helicopters coming in, trucks and everything with ballots and whatever. And make a long story short, we got the tour, and they put us in front of these computers that were tallying the votes every half hour. And the one thing that we noticed was that the initial percentage of my votes, when the first absentee ballots came in right off the bat when the polls closed, 20%. I had 20%. And every half hour it was 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%. And I said to one of the people there, I said, how is this possible? I mean, there's no shift.
Yeah, it doesn't go to 21 or 19. It just stays.
The count keeps changing, and it's still 20%. I mean, how is this possible? Right. I said, give us the rest of the tour. And we eventually went upstairs, and this, that, and the other thing. We went to a little room, and he said, you can't go in there, but you can look, and there's a computer. And I looked in there. It was a big computer, and I said, well, what's that? He said, well, that's where the numbers are. And then we send those numbers, raw numbers, 8 miles away to another computer, and then they come back here, and that's official. And I said, well, can we go over to the other place and try to see what's happening? He said, well, maybe. So we were going to challenge the vote the day after when we lost. And then they told us, I forget what it was going to cost us $8,000 or something, and I figured out that they could rig the vote even on the recount. So what good was it? And so that's one reason why, an answer to your question, that happens. But in general, here's what I think. There are really some great people around who should be running for office. But those great people have to know how to say the truth with such conviction and in such unflinching terms that there is no budging from it. They can't be, wishy-washing around, and they can't be kind of passive. I mean, you've got to attack with the truth, and you've got to stand behind it all the way, and you can't ever budge. And you've got to keep pressing and pressing and pressing. And that's, because if there's going to be any change, that's the kind of people that we need. And unfortunately, some of the great people that I know who should be running for office, when it comes down, push comes to shove, they're just not going to be able to express it with enough absolute conviction to make a dent.
Do you think we should have term limits?
Constitutionally, I'm against it because I don't think that's the way it was originally set up in a sense. But I favor it because the spirit of the whole idea from the beginning of the Constitution was that you would get citizens who would serve for a brief amount of time and then go back to their lives.
Right.
And the idea was you would get many different citizens who would come forward and serve and do the best job they could, because this was a republic with a severely limited central government planned that way, and that was the whole idea.
That's right.
So yes, I am in favor of it because that's what we should be seeing. Not these guys, well, I've been in the Congress for 45 years.
Right.
And I can't even see a foot in front of my face. And they
right.
wheel me in and I vote and they wheel me out. It's a career now. It's not supposed to be a career. It's supposed to be a public service.
Yeah. Every day that goes by, you're just a little more corrupt. Every day served, and you go 45 years, you are seriously black. I mean, you are a dark.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's.
You are just, terribly. There's like a foot of solid black ash all over you that you'll never get off, if you do that. 3-4 years and you're out.
That's it.
Okay, that's it. You do the best you can and you're gone, right? So you still have enough conviction so that when somebody approaches you and says, hey, look, we want you to vote this way, and if you do, you can go back to your constituency and promise them there'll be a new bridge or whatever, you know. You say, forget about it. I'm only going to be here for 3-4 years. What do I need you guys for? I'm going to go back and be a lawyer, or I'm going to go back and be an electrician, you know, so I don't need you.
What's wrong with that? Nothing. You know, what is wrong with that? And then one last thing about politics, and this is the other thing that just fascinates me. When I see a bill that is 500 pages thick and some schmo is voting on it, I know damn good and well he hasn't read any of it. And there's stuff that is in there that he has no clue about, nor does he care. He's either voting yes or no because he's being told to vote yes or no from either lobbyist or somebody around him on another committee that needs that bill passed or not passed, and that's how things get through. I just think that it should be, A, illegal, and B, people should be held responsible for the votes that they make on those bills. And I think bills should be 1 page, 2 pages. That's it. That way you can guarantee, A, that they've read it, and B, that there's no nonsense there. And make it it is such an obvious thing. And there's nobody in this country that can say that they've read a 500-page bill, or they know that their congressman or their senator is reading these 500,000-page. I mean, you've seen them. They're 1.5 feet tall. It would take you 2 years to read it.
What was it that Nancy Pelosi said? You have to vote on the bill and pass it, and then you can read it.
Right. Or have somebody read it for you.
That's what she said about Obamacare, right?
Right.
You know, listen, I got to say one thing, so I want to make sure I get this in because I want people to understand this. Ever since 1987, when I started writing my first book, AIDS, Inc., which was an expose, shall we say, an investigation into the fraud behind the research that came up with HIV and all of that, I understood, finally understood, that the medical cartel is the most important cartel in the globalist plan to absolutely take over the planet and run it like a tight ship with wall-to-wall surveillance and absolute control. And the reason is because it's poison central. Because people are being debilitated and killed and spun around and confused to the point where they can't do anything. Because they're on these drugs all the time and toxic vaccines and so forth. And so worldwide, Rockefeller medicine has triumphed in this respect for a very good reason. And that is that you just look at one person who dies from a pharmaceutical drug, right? And now you look at their family and their coworkers and their friends and so on. The extreme emotional turmoil, the ripples that go out from every one of these people. And now you add all of that up all over the country with not just the 225,000 people that the medical system kills every year in America, but the millions of people that have severe adverse consequences from drugs, medical drugs, and end up in the hospitals, or they never get to the hospitals, and they're convalescing for months and on and on and all of this. And you see a picture of a country, and this goes for every country in the world more and more these days, that is being literally eaten out from the inside. This is a gigantic ongoing covert op. And the ultimate purpose of it is political, so that it will be much more possible to control the entire population of the planet. And that's why the medical cartel is so important, because fewer and fewer people will be able to think straight, stand up for what they believe, even know what they believe, clear the confusion from their minds, somehow try to dismiss the pain that they're feeling from all these drugs and so forth. This is a conscious operation. And so everything we've been talking about tonight with Zika and the fraud and the protection of these mega corporations that are poisoning people with pesticides, it all feeds into the same overarching covert op on planet Earth. This is big time, folks.
One of the things, and you've written about this too, that I can't understand when we talk about moral compass. When we talk about Monsanto and some of these, Dow Chemical and DuPont and some of these huge corporations, when we excuse me, when we look at a country like, let's say Brazil. I almost went with Africa. But let's say with Brazil, there's a very small percentage of the population of Brazil. It's got two humongo cities, right? I mean, huge. But the amount of the population that is able to get medical care or have a good diet or eat correctly and stay focused and stay on track is very small. The rest of the population, they don't have that control over what is going on there with pesticides and other things that are poisoning the country from within, like you are saying. And there is no control, and I'm not too sure if countries like Brazil are really concerned with that. There are so many, the largest part of the population there is undernourished. If they do get a virus or if they are affected by a Monsanto product, it kills them or brings them down and affects them greatly, as opposed to having good nutrition and so forth. And is that part of the global elitist control mechanism as well?
You bet. Absolutely. No question about it. One of the big things that really turned me around when I was writing my first book was when I started looking at so-called AIDS in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're talking about is decades and decades and decades and decades of no basic sanitation, farmland stolen by major corporations, grinding poverty, contaminated water supplies, severe starvation and malnourishment from generation to generation. I mean, this is what keeps the population under control. And the local rulers, in conjunction with CIA, major corporations, the globalists, et cetera, want to keep it that way. They surely intend to keep it that way, because I could go into any one of these countries tomorrow with a few people from, a relatively small firm, and we could go to a city and we could start cleaning up the water, and within a year they'd have at least a pure water supply. I mean, it's just simple to do this stuff, but they never do it. They write task force reports on this stuff, and they never do it. They want to keep it this way. So they come along and they say HIV. Suddenly it becomes, the biggest thing in the world, and especially in Africa, it becomes the biggest thing in the world. And it's a total hoax. It's a total hoax. A doctor contacted me from Africa while I was writing the book, and he said, I want to ask you a question. He said, what I did was I started a small clinic for AIDS patients in a nice, clean space, good nutrition, quiet, no, outside stressors. Started a very small farm growing soy so they could sell product, make a little bit of money, and the nutrition was good, and up. And he said, you know what happened? I said, I have a feeling, but go ahead and tell me. He said, all their AIDS symptoms disappeared.
Right.
And I said, so why are you calling me? What's the question? He said, I don't know what to do now. He said, should I give them AIDS drugs? The guy, he was so indoctrinated as a doctor that he felt compelled to use the drugs, which, by the way, are perhaps the most toxic drugs ever released on the planet for long-term use. But anyway, so he asked me this question, and I said, well, isn't the answer obvious to you? You've healed these people because that's what was wrong with them, because what you've given them is what they've never had before. And that's what's going on. And HIV becomes the gigantic cover story for what the powers that be intend to continue to do in Africa, what I just described. And they need a cover for the covert op. And so they've got one. Again, it's the virus. And they do that over and over and over. And that's exactly what's happening with Zika.
And they did it with Ebola.
And they did it with Ebola. They did it with swine flu.
Right.
I don't know whether I could describe the Cheryl Atkinson story in the time we have left, but
Well, let's do that. Can I get you to hang on for an extra 10 minutes?
Sure.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's go with the next 5 things, because I do want to cover Oregon, and not Oregon as people are going to think we're going to cover it. You've got something else and some new information on that. So we're going to do. I want to do that after the break.
Okay.
So let's wrap up on Zika. What are the next 5 things that are going to happen with the Zika fear porn?
Okay, there's so many more than 5 now, but I'll try to give you, a good 5.
Okay. Well, we can go to 10. We can go to 10. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're going to get reports of many, many more cases of Zika. We're already seeing that happening. See, the virus that causes nothing, but it's going to, be called a global phenomenon. So that's how they produce this fake pandemic and so on and so forth, right? They're going to completely protect these corporations in Brazil that are using atrazine, Roundup, other completely toxic pesticides, and so on and so forth. They're going to continue to release these genetically engineered mosquitoes in order to try to diminish the mosquito population. And this is also very dangerous because no safety studies whatsoever, health studies, have been done on the effects of these mosquitoes. But when they release them, they will kill many mosquitoes and create a vacuum into which other mosquitoes like the Asian tiger will suddenly emerge that carry dengue fever, and it's going to make things worse. So you've got that, for example. Then you're going to get the World Health Organization saying that, we're struggling to get this under control and we don't think we control it. And then down the line, they're going to say that the heroic action of doctors and health agencies and whatever have managed to avert a global disaster by a hair's breadth, to promote the hero story of all of this, So that's another thing that's going to happen. And then they're going to continue the attack on women. They're going to continue to say, don't get pregnant, don't travel to these countries, et cetera, et cetera. And now we have abortions at sea that we were just talking about. So this is a concerted attack on women. It's also population control. So that is going to happen. And they are going to suppress the research that is now ongoing in Brazil that demonstrates, as I mentioned at the top of the show, that there are relatively few cases of this birth defect, and there is no connection that is being made, a genuine connection to the Zika virus at all, which is harmless and has nothing to do with anything. So those are 5 of the things out of the top of my head that are going to happen. And also, this is an attack on Brazil. Brazil is part of the so-called BRIC nations, 5 nations, Russia, China, India, South Africa, Brazil, who are forming, in a sense, their own global economy and their own kind of international monetary fund to help each other out and other countries. And they may also be trying to get off the dollar reserve currency for oil transactions. And they constitute a significant threat, and they have to be taught a lesson. And they are being taught a lesson right now.
And you say here, some independent researchers will continue to insist that Zika is actually a weaponized biowar virus. And that was something I was reading about today. Can you expand on that for me?
Sure. I mean, these people are certainly well-intentioned, most of them. But what they forget, or they've never learned, is that you have to go back to the beginning when these things happen, and you have to say, is there any proof that this virus actually has any connection to the condition, the disease, the illness, whatever that's being described here? Because that's the first thing you have to establish before you're going to suddenly jump to it's a biowar weapon. And if it turns out there is no connection between the virus and the condition or the illness or whatever, then you better just kind of take another look at that before you jump to that conclusion. even though you can say, okay, so somebody from the Rockefeller Institute took out a patent on this virus in 52 or whatever, still, you have to go back to the beginning. And in my experience with such researchers, once they latch on to this, they will continue to say biowar weapon. And they're right that there's a conspiracy, no question about it, but it is a more complex conspiracy, which I think I have sketched in pretty well here in the last 2 hours. It's not the direct line, we weaponized it, we're now releasing it. It's not exactly that conspiracy because we see no connection between the virus and microcephaly.
You also point out, this was written yesterday, and I love this article too, because I talk about the AP all the time and Reuters. And you touch upon AP's reporting on this out of Brazil. I look at it, and before we get to the break, I just want your comment. Reuters and their connection to the Rothschilds and the banking industry, which turn around and funnels back to Big Farm. Is this just, disinfo projected down from Reuters through AP, reporting in Brazil on something that is inaccurate just to funnel money back through the banking system and Big Farm?
Sometimes it isn't, always the case, but sure. I mean, this is the giant media complex, and if they want to cover something up or tell a false story, they will absolutely do that. But you also have to realize that, say, the Associated Press is a kind of confederation of media outlets. It's registered as a nonprofit.
Right.
And the biggest media companies are all the heads of it together. And that's why you see that they all tell the same story, because they are the day-to-day operators, in a sense, of the Associated Press. That's how it operates. Of course, they have Associated Press reporters and so forth and so on, but they are, you could say, a subunit of these giant media companies. So you're going to get the echo effect, and they're all going to say the same thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I find it, especially since you've pointed this out, and I've kind of read between the lines and figured some things out about Zika on my own, certainly through your reporting too. But the one thing that you do in Journalism 101 is you just vet your sources. And I see a serious lack of responsibility from AP, which has been pushing this story from day one. And it just doesn't appear that they've wanted to have the effort of peeling back a couple of layers and getting to the truth. And they're okay with misrepresenting what is actually happening in Brazil.
Absolutely. But you see, somebody went off the reservation at Associated Press, somebody down in Rio, because the story that they reported on January 27th, where they made it clear that there were only 270 confirmed cases of microcephaly in Brazil, and in only 6 of those did they even find any trace of the Zika virus, that's a guy who went off the reservation.
Right.
And you will not see that story repeated.
No, I never did. And
they will never look into that. And the story, the article that I wrote about it was as if, here they had all this explosive information right there. They reported it, and they didn't even know what they had.
No, and they did nothing about it. That's the thing, John.
See, and you'll never see it again.
Right.
It's like that disappeared. Okay, we made a mistake. Somebody went off the reservation. Let's forget about it, and let's just move on. And that's what they do, because they know that most people, if they even read the article, they'll just look at that and they'll just say, well, yeah, okay, but we know that Zika is a terrible threat anyway, because people are programmed to say that, and they'll keep saying it, and they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to say, oh, my God, look what we did. Look what we exposed. Nah. The machine rolls on, it's a steamroller, and they just go to other things, and everybody forgets about it.
That's it. It's a bigger crime to walk away and do nothing, in my opinion.
You bet. It's a bigger crime to walk away.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Oregon, and believe it or not, Hillary is involved. And John, you blew my mind today, and I've been thinking about it all day. We're going to discuss all of this right after the break. Our guest tonight is Jon Rappoport. Website is nomorefakenews.com. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hi, folks. Ray Sobbs here with KGRA to tell you about something very special taking place in February 2016. I'm talking about the Space and Alien Snowfest Ufology Conference taking place at the beautiful ski and snowboard resort city of Big Bear Lake in sunny Southern California. We've got Richard Dolan, Chase Kletzky, Micah Hanks, Jason Martell, Jimmy Church, Linda Moulton Howe, Mike Barra, and keynote speaker Stanton Friedman will be presented a Lifetime Achievement Award. George Norrie and his producer Tom Danheiser from Coast to Coast AM Live will be with us all weekend. After the hectic holidays, gift yourself a retreat on top of the world the first weekend in February 2016 with a one-of-a-kind ufology event featuring some of the top minds in the field. Take advantage and book your lodging early and get your tickets now and register at aliensnowfest.com. I'll be there. Don't miss out.
This is TalkNetwork.com.
Hello, Fadernauts. Are you looking for the ultimate Bluetooth speaker system? Well, check this out. The Studio Dome surround sound system, featuring the Studio Dome 1 SD1 and the Studio Boombox SBB wireless Bluetooth speakers, is the perfect way to get surround sound without all of the cable headaches. With its own hard shell custom carrying case for taking your surround sound experience on the go. Each hard shell case comes packed with an SBB, 2 SD1s, cables, and power. It's just $99. And you use the promo code Jimmy, and you get yourself some free shipping. Once again, Studio Dome brings you the best deal on the net. Anywhere. Just go to the Studio Dome banner, JimmyChurchRadio.com, promo code Jimmy. Go Beckley Teppy.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to Fade to Black. Going into a little overtime with Jon Rappoport. Thank you, John, for doing this for us. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. And, hey, John, I'm looking at some of your tweets here, and you're out of your mind. You're good. You're good. This is good stuff. And you can follow John. It is, it's just, Jon Rappoport. That's it. And you can do that. We've been retweeting you all night long. Good stuff, man.
Oh, great.
All right, now, okay, let me set the record straight. I went on a big rant last night about how things are starting to come to an end up there, and Lavoy Finicum, and I really feel it was Lavoy's. He chose to do what he did to do. He made 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bad decisions right in a row, and it ended in his death. But I can't, in this case, as much as I want to say it's the feds, that was bad. But all of that happened there, the taking over the refuge, the armed patriots, and everything that was going on, I could never figure out why they were there. I never really got the straight situation. And on top of that, what was fed to me wasn't enough to go and risk life and limb and go and have an armed takeover of a a cabin, out in the middle of nowhere. It just didn't make sense to me. And then coupled with the fact that the feds didn't even really care that they were there. They let them leave. They let them come and go. They let them go shopping, go to the movies, go hang out, run around town, go to McDonald's, whatever. They could do whatever they could come and go, but yet this was some kind of armed takeover. And it just didn't make sense. And one of the reasons why I think nobody else is really outraged across the country, all the other militias and other anti-Fed, anti-IRS coalitions that are going on out there, which I understand and I get, but nobody else is outraged because I don't think that they really understood it either. It just didn't make any sense. And then you hit me with this revelation today. I'm handing it off to you, John. I thought it was just absolutely brilliant.
Okay. So let's say that this might explain why the feds were trying to, not have another Waco. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why they wouldn't want to do that, a whole lot of reasons. But here's one that really goes dark. We start with the Russians and basically Mr. Putin now own 20% of U.S. uranium production. As outrageous as that may seem, it's true. In fact, the New York Times even wrote an article about this. And how this deal was made, basically, was a company in Canada called Uranium One, who did own 20% of U.S. uranium production, decided that it wanted to sell itself to the Russians a couple of years ago. Now, this is a very sensitive deal, of course, right? And in order to make it go through, because it has to do with national security in the U.S., 9 federal agencies have to sign off on it, one of which was the State Department at the time, headed up by Hillary Clinton, whose spokesman denies that she had anything to do with this and blah, 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 blah. However, during the time that this negotiation was taking place to sell this company, Uranium One, to the Russians, donations began to come into the Clinton Foundation from Canadian mining executives. Significant donations.
Stay
Millions.
focused.
Millions.
Stay focused, kids. This gets really good.
Yeah, stay focused because there's a punchline here.
Oh, man.
And the Clinton Foundation did not report these donations, even though they had promised they would, because Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. And, she was saying, look, there will be no conflict of interest. People that give money to the foundation, we're not going to do any favors or whatever. And so we're going to be completely transparent about who donates and how much and whatever. But they did not report these donations from Canadian mining executives. And the deal went through to Putin, and he now owns 20% of U.S. uranium production. Now we flash back to 2011, 2012. There are discussions underway in the general area, maybe even the specific area, but certainly the general area of this standoff in Oregon, negotiations between local officials and mining executives to open up a yellow cake uranium mine right there. Okay?
Bam.
Okay? So the last thing that the feds want is any kind of attention, right, paid to this area for any reason whatsoever, right? And so in walk these patriots all of a sudden for their own reasons, right? All the reasons, federal land grab, all this kind of stuff, the Hammonds, the whole story. And they take over this cabin, right? Oh, my God. this is called exposure. We don't want anybody on the news to be talking about this area because this could be the next uranium mine that opens, which, as a matter of fact, is going to be owned by the Russians. And so consider the irony of these patriots coming to this cabin to take it over because of the illegal land grab of the U.S. feds over what should be private land, when in fact this is going to turn out to be Russian land.
The finest definition of irony I can think of.
Yeah.
And so this is the thing. What if those patriots that went in, the Bundys, they went in and they were screaming about this, we have something.
Oh.
It makes sense. Now it makes sense. Now go take over that cabin. Arm yourselves up. You don't want Putin to be mining yellow cake uranium on government land.
Southern Oregon on U.S. government land. Now you really got something, you see. But, the story was there in the New York Times, so who knows who knew what. But obviously these people were there for their own reasons. But that would have made a heck of a kind of standoff on that basis, especially when the news really started to hit the world, and we're talking about Russian control of 20% of U.S. uranium. How do you like that, Americans?
Yeah.
All Americans of any persuasion, right?
Now it makes perfect sense why the feds or the media just didn't care. They wanted that to go away. They wanted it to simmer down, and they didn't want any trouble. They didn't want anything, and that's it. And it makes perfect sense. Now I understand how it went down in Oregon and why it did.
Very sensitive, high-level government issue here that we're talking about. Like, we got to hide this. We got to hide this. The Clinton Foundation hid it. Hillary, Bill, Canadian mining executives, secret donations to the Clinton Foundation, Putin, uranium, Southern Oregon. Oh my God! Couldn't they have picked another place to go? And now it's on the news. Are you kidding? Easy does it. Let's hope it just goes away.
Let's. I'm glad we're in a bunker. Man, hey, John, thank you so much. What's up next for you? What are you going to write on next? Are you going to continue on Zika?
Oh, you bet. There's more Zika coming. And we'll see what else. But that's a hot thing right now.
Do you ever speak in public?
I do, yeah. I have. Last time was about, a year ago or so, at a conference up in San Mateo. Don't like to ordinarily do it because I'm not crazy about air travel. But, yeah, I like to get up in front of an audience. Bigger the better. Love it.
Yeah, you should. And when you do, I can't wait to get you back on the show, and we will do that ASAP. We'll get that scheduled. There's way too much to talk about. And, of course, we have to do the whole Cheryl Atkinson story, too, as well.
You bet.
And she deserves it. So, thank you so much,
thanks,
John.
Jimmy. That was fantastic.
Absolutely wonderful conversation. It was all that and more. Thank you so much, John. Be safe.
You too. Thank you.
Jon Rappoport. And I got to tell you, thank you, John. And what do you guys think about that? Yellow cake uranium, 20% owned by Putin, sitting underneath that cabin up there. And the Bundys knew nothing about it. Had they, in the very slight, hinted at that, then everything would make sense. And then we have a different situation up there. And then public awareness and everything else, and Hillary's running. I mean, could you just imagine what this would have turned into, and still potentially can turn into? And disclosing this on this show, I know the New York Times reported on it, but John, when he hit me with this today, then everything just came into focus. What didn't make any sense, and I tried to make this point yesterday with Lavoy Finicum, and with the enormous audience that we have, I didn't get any negative email. I didn't get anything. There was like one tweet that I was aware of that came across. I'm siding with the feds. I wasn't siding with the feds. I was trying to make the point that the feds weren't doing anything. They weren't doing anything. And if they wanted to do something, they certainly would have, and they just didn't do it. You know, and when I got hit with this today, everything just started clicking off. And that's the bigger story. And that is why the feds just roadblocks and just you can come and go as you please. You know, think about that for a second. They just wanted this to go quietly away. If you and your buddies or anybody else goes and takes over a federal building, it's going to end badly. It's going to end bad. They are not going to let that continue. And that's what they did. Live broadcast going on from inside, shipping of food and provisions going in and out. It was just it just didn't make any sense. And now it does. Thank you, Jon Rappoport. What a day. Zika, I'm telling you, and he's absolutely right. How about that? Everything that we have been told about Zika is 100% fear porn. 100%. Now, we're going to watch this play out. And I can tell you, with his little checklist that he has sent, and you can go to his website and read all of his Zika stuff at No More Fake News, it is an amazing amount of work that he has put into this. And he's a true journalist, a true reporter on the streets. And I want to thank him for that. What a show tonight. Yeah, tomorrow we head to Alien Snowfest. We're going up to Big Bear. And we're looking forward to that. You know what? Last call for a few days. I guess I'll let this guy in just for grins. What's up, Dino? I'll let you be the last call of the week. How are you?
Okay, well, since we're not going to be on tomorrow night, I just want to tell you all we talked about tonight. You know, just when people take up arms, which I think frivolously, if it's time to take up arms, you should be doing something serious. And when they do these type of things, I think it just reinforces the man, as we call him, to crack down. And an example of that is what's going on with the 50th Super Bowl around here. You have not seen, and most of us will not see, the security that is around, because more than half of it is undercover. And it's very scary, very scary. When I was driving home from work to see two unmarked dark green helicopters flying overhead, and I'm not paranoid, but when I made a turn to go on the Golden Gate Bridge, they flew over me like they were following me. But I'm not important. It's just we have to be serious about all this that's going on. There is so much being hidden, and it's our right to know. And this Super Bowl is just an example. Forget Jade Helm this summer. This is an example of what power is behind anybody that's running things. And you have to be aware if you're going to call that power down on you. It better be for a good cause.
Do you remember, what was the movie with Bruce Dern, Black Sunday? You remember that movie from the early 70s?
I missed it.
Okay, I think it was about the Super Bowl. I could be wrong, but Bruce Dern was a terrorist, and he was going to have this bomb on a balloon with nails, and it was shaped like a boat. I can't remember, but it was about that, right? I think it was about the Super Bowl. But if you are a doofus and you want to pick an event to make a statement, the Super Bowl, and and right now with the climate of the world and the nuts that are running around right now that are just itching for publicity. And I talked about that today. ISIS hasn't had publicity in a long time. They've been ignored by the mass media. So get ready for something stupid to happen. And I don't want to be, giving anybody ideas. I doubt they listen to this show, and that's beside the point. But here we have the Super Bowl coming up on Sunday, and you can't have, if you have lax security, or if they back off at all and something happens, then you're going to say coulda, woulda, shoulda, and we can't have that situation. So with the climate of what's going on around right now, I can only imagine what it is like up right now in Northern California.
It's just like a peek under the covers of what kinds of things that we are not aware of. I mean, I must have seen on local news 2 or 3, quote unquote, oh, this is a former special agent with CIA, or this is a former agent with the FBI consulting with the news to tell everybody about, well, we're not going to tell you what they're doing, but you can bet they have A, B, C, D going on with security right now all around the Bay Area.
Well, I remember when the Super Bowl was in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl, and that week, I think they might have done 2 there, but I remember the first one certainly. And I don't remember any security, man. I don't remember nothing. I don't remember anything changing in Pasadena. And I lived right next to the Rose Bowl. I don't remember anything. The game just kind of came and went. You know, yeah, it's a different world that we live in today, Dino. There's no doubt about it. None. So,
and they're rounding up, I mean, homeless people that you would see around the Embarcadero, you can't find them. I mean, and they say they haven't even opened this special shelter way down the Embarcadero out of the way. They're still building it, and it's supposed to open in a day or 2, but it's like the area is sterile. People getting on the ferries at the foot of Market Street to go home couldn't even get through because there was some demonstration about housing issues and such, a local demonstration. The cops had it all cordoned off, and they were talking about, free speech rights, but they wanted to keep it peaceful. I'm telling you, they wouldn't even let people on the ferries across the line who weren't part of the demonstration. It is locked down. The eastern half of San Francisco is locked down.
Wow. Well, they should be having demonstrations about Peyton Manning. And that's a whole nother story. Good luck to the Broncos. All right. Yeah, I'd like to see Peyton pull that off. One last little thing and go out with a bang. But it's going to be a tough. I don't know. It could be actually a great Super Bowl. I don't know. Just as long as the Patriots aren't there and we get to see 2 other teams that just don't get there that often. So there you go. All right.
Well, Jimmy, are you going up to tomorrow? Then you're going to be driving up the mountain.
Yep.
Yeah, well, okay, do what you can for those of us who can't be there to tweet us, You're going to have a live broadcast, aren't you?
Nope.
Oh, geez, you should have put that in your contract, man. You should have been live.
Well, one of the things that I was looking forward to, because that's what we do so often, is being able to go to a conference and just speak and not have the stress of the logistics and the technical side of setting up for a live show. It's a lot of work. And so I was looking forward to enjoying this conference like everybody else does, where I don't have to stress out and do that. But, yeah, we're going to be doing that at Conscious Life. We're going to be doing that at Contact in the Desert. And we're going to be doing that out at the Roswell Festival. So we're going to do 3 live broadcasts right in a row, nearly 3 months in a row coming up. But, no,
good.
The Alien Snow Fest, I get to go up and just not stress out on a live broadcast and taking gear and everything that goes along with that. So, no, I'm really looking forward to Alien Snowfest. Thank you so much, Dino.
Here's Dino's advice for you. One thing, since you're going to be enjoying the show, when you do the announcements or you run a panel, just make sure you brush up on your comedy. You got to be funnier than George was at A&P. He told a lame joke.
All right, I've got a few lame jokes. I can do that. Thank you so much, Dino.
Okay. Good night. Enjoy yourself.
I'll talk to you. Dino, everybody. He's got to be the last call of the week. All right. I got it. Man, there's some things that I've got to get in here that I didn't have time to do at the front of the show. And one of them is this. The FAA right now is totally happy that signups for its new drone registry have hit 300,000. No joke. But the agency's buoyant mood right now, their happiness, is headed for a nosedive. Why? The FAA isn't warning drone users that their names and addresses are now searchable and downloadable in a 47-megabyte file in the agency's own online registry. You heard me right. And why is this a big deal? The FAA states that the UAV, the Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Database, is not searchable at this time, and I'm quoting them, but that's not true. It is currently searchable by serial number, the FAA's N number, the drone maker model, or a person's name. While drone owners must be, now check this, 13 years old to register. 13. The privacy threat posed by this registry is particularly concerning for minors for obvious reasons. I'm freaked out about this. Entering the name of a common drone model returned a couple of hundred results. And you can narrow that down to one Texas county with 4 registrations. One was to an LLC, another was to a university, but 2 were private citizens, one of them female, who didn't know their names and addresses were online. The registry is now required for individual recreational or hobby users of drones. Failure to register is punishable by civil penalties up to $27,500. If you're 13 years old and don't register your drone. Think about that. And criminal penalties of up to $250,000 and or imprisonment for up to 3 years. Something is wrong. Needs to stop right now. Completely. Now, German scientists today, that's today, will set up the first step towards what has become the holy grail of energy nuclear fusion, which has the potential for unlimited amounts of clean power. Right now, there are a number of challenges to harnessing this power. We know this. Researchers need to build a device that can heat atoms to temperatures of more than 212 million degrees Fahrenheit. Now, almost after 9 years of construction and more than 1 million assembly hours, researchers from the Max Planck Institute in Greifswald are set to do about just that. They are going to be heating a tiny amount of hydrogen until it becomes as hot as the center of the sun. Researchers are keen to tap into the incredible amount of energy that is about to be released when atoms join together at extremely high temperatures. That's right, it's called plasma, and it's going down today in Germany. German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who has a doctorate in physics, is going to attend today's test. Yeah. U.S. private space companies, check this, and then I'll let you go. U.S. private space companies, Space Exploration Technologies, and United Launch Alliance, a partnership of Lockheed Martin and Boeing, have scheduled more than 30 launches from Florida this year. That is up from 18 that were launched last year. The jump in planned launches reflects increasing demand for commercial communications and imaging satellites, as well as business from U.S. military, International Space Station cargo, and NASA asteroid sample return missions. SpaceX and ULA fly from pads at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station just south of NASA Spaceport. The launch rate is expected to continue to climb as new companies, including Amazon, Jeff Bezos, Blue Origin, enters the market later on this decade. The launch services industry generated global revenues of $5.9 billion in 2014, and we're expecting that to nearly double. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow, we're on our way to the Alien Snowfest. We'll see everybody there. I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe. I want to thank Jon Rappoport. NoFakeNews.com. NoMoreFakeNews.com. It's a great website. Fade to Black's executive producers Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, and Jonas. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Fatoma, Mark D. Kovar, Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew, the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA The Planet. Tomorrow night is a best of replay. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2015 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Be safe. Go Beckley Teppy.